Cool. We are live.
Okay, perfect. There we go. What's going on, everybody? Have some amazing panelists today. Just want to go ahead and kick it off just as we give everybody a couple more minutes to roll in. And right now, one of the biggest topics of conversation in all of our meetings behind the scenes has been, what should we name our whale? So would love for you guys to just type a couple things into the chat. What do you guys think our whale should be named? Give it a couple minutes and then we'll get started.
Currently, our best idea is whaley, so we need help, guys. Sir Whale I am. That's a good one. Interesting.
We got
Brian
Wilson.
says Wilson the whale. Okay. If you guys didn't know, Zane is a high school senior. He's one of the youngest members of TechPod executive team, and this is his first moderating event where he's moderating. So yes, I saw your I saw your reaction, Amy. That was funny.
Wait, Zane, are you 18?
No, still 17. So I haven't even turned 18 yet. I don't turn 18 until September. So got a couple more months now.
Wait, what year are you born?
2003.
It blows me away every single time I think about it. Like, Zane's just out here, like, he's a founder of multiple startups. He has his own podcast. He runs social media here at TechPod. So he's just, yeah, some people are just built different, you know?
Dude, good for you, Zane. Good for you.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you for the intro. Perfect. Well, 5:05. So I want to make sure that being cognizant of everyone's time. Joseph, thank you once again. Let's go ahead and just really just want to preface everything in terms of tonight. Again, we have four amazing panelists. We got Yushan, Mina, Crystal, and Amy. And so the way that we're just going to do it is going to go through and make sure that I'm providing all of you guys as much value as possible. So in terms of TechPod, if you are new here right now, we are just a community that is helping empower people to get onto the business side of tech. And that's what we're doing. Quick TLDR around the company. And so for today's session, just one thing we'd love for you guys to throw in the chat as well. Really want to understand what success looks like to all of you. So we've got our questions. We're here ready just to provide value to you guys. And so just in the comment section, let us know just a couple of different takeaways you guys are looking for out of this entire experience, just so we can make sure that we're optimizing all of your time and optimizing our questions for that as well. So we'd love to just have you guys type it into the chat a little, and then we'll go ahead and I'll introduce our amazing panelists for today. Okay, Rebecca says she wants to learn how to stand out a bit more as an intern at a big company. That's good. Okay, understanding how to navigate return offers, trying to secure full-time jobs. Okay, it's great. Perfect. So I'll let the comments just continue to roll. So why don't we just go ahead and quickly get into some intros. I'll let you guys go ahead and talk about yourself a little. So Yushan, why don't we just go ahead and get started with you? Can you just talk a bit about your college experience and then also what your internship was like at Cisco and then how you're looking forward to the return offer there?
Definitely awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. So hi guys, my name is Ishan. I'm currently a senior at San Jose State University studying business finance. And last summer I did have an internship with Cisco within their financial lift program. And there I got to really work really hands-on, do 2 projects, even an intern project. And then I will be returning inside of the August as well. Overall, my college experience itself, I guess I wasn't really involved until my junior year, but once I got involved, I feel definitely networking. That's a lot of what ended up landing me into the world that I am today. I know it can be scary, especially for like a lot of people that are quieter side, but it's just exponential room for people to grow. So I'm excited to be here.
Love it, love it, love it. Mina, why don't we go ahead and get into you next?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mina, and I'm currently a senior at Brewer College studying human resources management, and I'm an aspiring tech recruiter. And at the moment, I'm supporting engineering roles at Viacom, CBS Streaming, Paramount Plus. As a tech recruiting intern, my other internship experiences have been at a public safety tech startup called Rapid SOS, YSL, and a nonprofit. On the side, I am really passionate about DEI and giving back to underrepresented community. So I volunteer at a nonprofit called Diverse Influencers as a director of student enrichment. Thank you for having me.
Love it, love it. So you've got tech, now we got entertainment. Crystal, why don't we go ahead and get to you next?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Christelle Lewis, and I previously interned for AWS on their EdTech team. And I spent the summer doing that, and it was a 3-month internship, and I had a blast. I was able to work with a lot of EdTech startups and kind of set them up for success within the cloud space at AWS. And then the following fall, I had the opportunity to intern at Curology, which is a skincare technology company that matches you with your own personalized formula for your acne and skin problems. So that was an amazing experience in and of itself. I'm currently still in that role, and I'm so glad that I'm going to be able to share my experiences and the tips that I've learned along my career way so I can help anybody that's also wondering what to do to succeed within their internship.
Love it, love it. And definitely hope we can get into some more of those strategies today. So we'll have all of the knowledge bombs from them. Amy, let's go ahead and just finish off with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again, Zane. My name is Amy Zoe. I am a senior at UC Santa Barbara. I'm studying political science and communication. Like Christelle, I was an intern at Amazon, but I was in their marketing department. And so just coming into college, I was always like, I'm going to go into marketing. Let's figure this shit out. And so my experiences have really been marketing anywhere from Fortune 500, in-house, at agencies, at auto tech companies. So really happy to give advice on how to enter the marketing industry, especially from a non-target school, but also just to how to make your internship the best experience, especially in a remote setting where you're not able to, communicate in face with a manager and with a team. So happy to be here.
Love it, love it. And so one of the things that a lot of people were typing in the chat was really understanding what it's like to get a return offer. And so one thing I wanted to just talk about is, so if success looks like a return offer, what types of things can you guys be doing, or what types of things have you guys done to really make an impression on the people you're working around? That way they are more inclined to hire you back. And so Ishan, would love to just get started with you, and then we'll go to Mina, Crystal, and then Amy.
Definitely. So I think especially in the virtual environment that we were last summer, showing initiative is a big thing, right? So that's crucial because it shows that you're able to not only lead yourself, but then also you don't need to be motivated by others to get started. 2 to 3 months isn't a long time. So for you to really step up, make sure you network a lot with not only your intern class, but the managers, the team itself. And then it kind of shows because people do talk to each other, managers do talk as well. And so I think that really definitely helps, as well as if you don't know something, right? So you want to reach out for help, or you want to reach out to your peers or the resources that you have. And I think a time I can definitely remember is I'm in the finance role, but I'm not really the best with Excel. So I definitely had to have more Excel training. And so that was okay. Making sure you're able to reach out for the resources and show initiative in that, I think that can ultimately impact you later on when people are evaluating if you should get the return offer.
Love it, love it. And just to double click on one thing you said, I think a lot of people are actually scared of asking questions, especially within the role, just because it is a bit daunting. So can you just talk a bit more about how you potentially went about that asking process to really make sure that you were obviously just framing it in the right way, so you weren't daunted during that?
Definitely. I think I was a little bit daunted just because it was a virtual environment, right? And this is my first internship. And I think I didn't want to bother my manager with every little question that I had. So I had to like really think like, okay, is this something that I can figure out myself, or is this something that I would need to ask? So ask yourself that, right? If there's already resources out there that's kind of shown you, you can work your way through it. But if you do need your help, don't get stuck, because that can ultimately cost you time on a project. So think like time-wise, right? Is this going to help me get to like where I'm supposed to be in a timely manner? If not, the resources are there for you. In terms of how to go about asking it, if it's through your manager and you guys have established like the best form of communication through email, through text, try to figure out like what's best for them. If it's like speaking to them, doing a small like 15-minute chat, it can be that as well. Just like structure it in a way that when you're reaching out for them, it's like making sure you account for their time as well. So if you're scheduling time, don't send like 3 or 4 emails. Say like, this is the time I can meet. Can you meet at this time? It just makes it easier. And I think like, and when you ask, lead with the ask, right? So don't try to wait until multiple emails to kind of send the ask right away. Be clear about it, so then people can also work on their projects as well.
Love it. Love it. Makes a lot of sense. And Calendly makes everything in terms of scheduling a lot easier now, but love that you touched upon that. Mina, why don't we get into you?
Sure. That was amazing advice, first of all. And piggybacking off of that, like communicating what you're struggling with, or if you have questions, I would definitely make an agenda for your manager, whoever you want to talk to in advance with all the questions, and do your own research. Like if there's a process document in the Drive or something like that that you could observe and look at, then try to Google it or look through that first before asking your team. But also, like if it's not there, then of course you should ask. And another thing I would say is to be proactive. And I think one thing that I did was seeing what my manager's priorities were in terms of her load of work and what I could do to alleviate that and what I could play a role in. So, for example, she was working on 2 different roles with one hiring manager, and I knew that one of them was being prioritized. So I said, can I help with sourcing for this one? And she actually was like, yeah, for sure. Like you could actually take ownership of that. So I ended up taking ownership of that project and role. So definitely like showing your interest and being proactive is definitely how you could show you're really interested in working here, and also showing your impact at the end of your internship through statistics or a presentation. It's definitely how you could maybe secure the bag and the full-time offer.
Love it. Love it. Crystal?
Yeah, so I agree with what everyone already said. I think the most important thing to consider while you're in your internship is to lead with yourself. I know sometimes we can get caught up in just making sure that we're on our best behavior, and we sometimes we can't even believe that we got the job, and we just want to make sure that we're living up to the expectation. And sometimes that can allow us to kind of be and fall into the shape of what we expect our employer to expect of us. But I think it's important to lead with your personality, lead with yourself, and that already will set you apart from everyone else. Another thing that I say, that when I was at AWS, we had these leadership principles. I'm sure Amy can relate to those. They're like the Bible at AWS. And I think that a lot of the leadership principles that were exposed to us interns and just the employees there really set you up for success no matter where you are. I find myself leading with leadership principles in my own personal life. So making sure that you're taking action, taking ownership, and asking questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions. But I'd also say ask thoughtful questions. Don't just ask questions to fill the space in the room or just to remind people that you exist. Ask questions that are thought-provoking. Ask questions that would lead to a deeper understanding or a deeper answer. And just like what everybody else already said, like make sure that if it's something that you can figure out on your own, make sure that you're taking that bias for action and you're researching on your own, and you're making sure that you're doing that homework and not always putting all of the work and the homework on your manager, because at the same time, they have their own responsibilities to carry out, and they don't want to also be carrying you. Another thing that I think that's very important is to make sure that anything that you're providing for your manager, that you're providing the best work that you could possibly provide. And I think this is critical to securing that full-time offer. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to details. You're checking your I's, you're checking your T's, you're making sure everything's dotted, and you're making sure that you build up that credibility that your work is checked, triple checked, and you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing. And that way, in later situations, your manager wouldn't even have to question you or question your experience or question your skill, because they'll just be like, oh, well, I know Jonathan knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. So let's just have him lead that project.
Love it, love it. So many different things you talked about there. I actually just want to double click on one thing specifically. So you talked a lot about high standards, which I loved. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I guess, what types of things did you start thinking about before you did a project? How did you go through and double and triple check? Was it just your eyes looking at it, or did you go give it to other peers, other potential coworkers, to have them look at the project before you delivered it to the final person?
Right. I think the main step in making sure that I'm providing my best results is making sure that I understand what the ask is. And one thing about me, I will ask questions. I don't care if I look like a complete idiot. I will ask questions to make sure that me and whoever is assigning me the project are on the same page, which is really critical, because you want to make sure that you're doing good work, but you want to make sure that you're actually doing what your manager envisioned of you. So making sure that you understand what the task is, and also not being afraid to reach out to other resources and other people that could be of help on those projects. And using that task or using that strategy not only allowed me to grow my network at the company that I was working for, but also allowed me to learn so much more than I would have originally learned with just only sticking on my team.
Love it, love it. Amy, any advice in terms of making a good first impression to get a return?
Yeah, absolutely. So Christelle, talking like an Amazonian, totally get that. I'd say when it comes to if success for you is getting a return offer, I would probably just highlight two things that you should really emphasize. Number one is the adaptability to learn. So when you are hired into your specific role, they know you don't know everything. You're not here to answer all of their age-old questions for the company. Their goal is to train talent that can be their next generation. So their goal is to make sure that they train you right now, so that when they give you a return offer, you can come on the floor just running and you already know how the system works. So when you're in an internship, really treat it as an opportunity to learn everything you can and everything you can to be good for your full time when you get a return offer. So take the opportunity to ask as many questions as you can. Go out of your way to ask, why is this X and why is this Y? Especially, at least for me, when I was interning at Amazon, it was a remote setting. So that also meant that there was very little handholding and very little, I don't want to say structure, but a lot of the structure is self-defined by yourself. So learn as much as you can and try to be as curious as possible, because that is the only way you will grow. And that's also the best way to show your manager and show your team that you're putting the extra step forward and that you're deserving of a return offer. The second thing when it comes to return offer, I think, is probably just setting up that structure for yourself. So with internships, as well as, in a remote setting, you have a manager that probably has an ask for you, but that ask changes every day. There are maybe milestones that you have to check in every time. So it really is up to you to kind of set it up as your own project. So think of it as maybe like your school paper. I know a lot of us probably procrastinate to the last hour, but in your ideal world, if you were to set up small milestones and small check-ins, peer review sessions, how would you set that up? And then similarly, just structure that to how your final project is at the internship. So I would say, yeah, off those two things: one, learn and be curious, really emphasize the learning part of that internship. And then two, set up a structure for yourself, so it isn't your manager's job to, always check in on you and handhold you. And I think those two things definitely helped me a lot in my internship. And if that's how you measure success, I think those are, the ways to go.
Gosh, knowledge is a commodity at TechPod. So many good thoughts. Amy, I actually just want to double click on one thing you said in terms of asking questions. So what does a good question look like? And then how do you know, I guess, what's the criteria for asking a good question, right? Because where do you find the balance between overwhelming your manager, but then asking a question at a very pertinent time?
Yeah, great question, Zane. I think something for me is, when I think about it, kind of, again, like a research paper, like it's always the so what. So always ask yourself that so what. Let's say you're in a data analysis role and you notice that there is a certain trend. Ask yourself, okay, what does that really mean in the grand scheme of things? And so what? Why does this trend matter? I think examples that I can think of is when I was in my role, I had to quickly learn the new project I was on, the team, how it functions, the hierarchy. And a lot of those questions involved asking the why for that. So it's hard for me to give a specific example, but I think every question that you do ask, for example, hey, I noticed that, X, Y, and Z, can you explain why that happened? Or after that, ask the follow-up. So it's like, okay, then so what? Like, why does this matter in whatever my project is? So I think it becomes really important as you grow in your career, knowing how to filter in things and filter out things, and what kind of information you need and what information is maybe not as useful in whatever your project goals are. I think that might take time to learn, but maybe if you're in the beginning of your career, you might as well just go out of your way and ask every question that you can. Jot it all down, and then from there filter out what you need and what you don't, and over time you'll start having it becomes like a natural instinct. What you need and what kind of questions you don't need.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know one thing just within my personal experience is first principles thinking always wins, because you start to understand the intention behind everything, right? You just continue to ask why, and more you ask why, the more and more deliberate you can be about the entire process. So I love that you mentioned that. Just another question based off that was, what were your priorities for each internships? So really, really curious just to understand, like the internship period is so short, right? And so in order to maximize these 2 to 3 months of work, were there specific things you guys had in mind before starting on day one, or how did you guys really ensure that everything that you guys were prioritizing was actually gonna happen? So we'll go reverse structure here on it. So we'll go Amy first, and then Christelle, Mina, and Ishan.
Come back to me. I don't have an answer at the moment.
Okay, we'll go Christelle.
So I'd say that actually, I need some time to think about this question too. I'm sorry. Can you give me a minute?
Yeah. We'll go back to orthodox, and Ishan, you'll start, and then we'll just go through the slide.
Okay, so in terms of this is for what I would prioritize for my internship.
Yeah.
I feel like definitely when I was coming into it, I was just starting off on LinkedIn, so I felt like I was trying to definitely prioritize my networking and my network itself. So I think one thing that they do at Cisco is that they try to have like an intern cohort meetup before it begins. So I think that was really helpful for me to connect with my interns. But furthermore, like I think for me, it was really big on being able to show them that I'm capable of doing the work that they present me with, even if it's just intern tasks or if it's projects. I was lucky with getting actual projects, but yeah, being able to showcase my work and my abilities and just my efficiency, and as well as just networking with people, right? Because networking was really big, and I was just getting into it, so I was just trying to have as many chats as I could, trying something that I prioritized like within my projects as well. The tasks that I was given to could just kind of like, if I had to do research, I did research with different people, so then that also accomplished my networking goal too. So I think it was it helped a lot.
And actually, I just want to put on Amy's hat here for a second and just ask you, what does that mean? What does networking actually mean? Because there are so many different definitions. I know people are now using the word relationship building now, but to you, what did networking mean? Was it just adding as many people to your LinkedIn profile as possible, building quality and sustainable relationships? Just curious around that. Ishan.
Oh yes. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I thought that you said Amy. But yeah, for that one, I'll just say it's not about adding numbers. So it's not like a numbers game. I feel like for me, I try to do first meet with them in the beginning and then meet with them at the end too. So meeting with them in the beginning was just like introductory. If I got the research, that was just the research portion. Meeting with them at the end was just following up like, hey, this is what I accomplished in my internship, and then also asking about them too. Because you have to get kind of personalized and also take notes about like what the other person is doing, as well as like why did they stay at the company? Because ultimately that can help you decide, do you see yourself working here afterwards too? Because you may want to, but then the company that you go and experience, it may not ultimately be the company for you. But if you keep talking to those people, you get to learn a bit more about the company and the culture. Also helps you make your ultimate decision if you want to accept a return offer, because return offer goes both ways. They supply it, but you have to return it. So.
Okay, love it. Mina, any priorities in terms of what you were looking for out of your internships?
Yeah, I think at Viacom CBS, which was my junior year in summer internship, and now I'm in the same role, and I returned. I think that was my first internship where I'm doing purely recruiting. Prior to that, I was doing general HR internships where I explored various areas within it. But I really chose to like do a deep dive in talent acquisition. So one of my priorities was, finding out what talent acquisition means and like what do other people view it as that are in the role of recruiters. So I would also do what Ishan said about networking, and within the whole department, which is a lot of recruiters, I tried to do as many one-on-ones as I could just to pick their brain about recruiting and hear what they liked, what they disliked, what's the most rewarding experience they had as a recruiter, and what was like the recruiting and hell experience that they had. Like that was literally a question that I asked. And from then on, I think like I built my relationships with them, and like we still keep in touch, of course. And another part was also learning about tech recruiting, because I also had recruiting experience for more corporate roles like marketing, things like that. But tech is like a whole different beast, and learning the lingo and jargon is like something I was really intimidated by. So actually one of the priorities for me was learning about that and learning the things that I didn't know before I joined the company. So I asked my manager, you know, like, what are some ways that I could ramp up beforehand so I could come in with the ground running? And also like, what are some resources that I could look over? And she gave me a document, and I literally researched every piece of vocabulary I didn't know, just because I wanted to learn it. And I'm so thankful I did, because I would not have like been able to understand what they were saying. Like they were saying like APIs or what's Java, what's like all of those things. And I was like, I would have never known unless I asked that. So I would definitely recommend, like, you know, if you're going into a whole different role or you're going into an unfamiliar area, definitely like ask your manager and build that rapport and show that you're willing to learn and grow with the team, and that you're interested.
Love it, love it. And so I know for me, when I go to learn different things, I like to use medium.com. So I'll just write articles on different things that I learn. I guess, what was the best practice for you? Any suggestions for the audience in terms of learning these technical jargon words in such a short amount of time when you're in an internship period?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I literally just Googled each word that I didn't know. I think Google is like the best tool ever. So I wouldn't say that I went through like a lot of articles and things like that, but try to go through like, you know, tech websites that listed those things out. I also looked at the AWS website to see what the different tools that they have and cloud computing and things like that. What does it mean? And looking through the content and seeing, you know, GitHub, what this a Stack Overflow account looks like. Like that's how I really learned to do that. And also I picked a tech recruiter's brain on ramping up and learning those terms. So definitely like reach out to the people already in your network, or someone that has been in that role before, to learn like how they did it. And that's how I learned.
Perfect. Christelle, priorities for your internships?
Yes, I think the priority for me within both internships were first understanding what my role entailed. And it depends on what company you're working for. I know that my experience with Curology was a lot different from my experience with AWS, because AWS, I was tasked with only working on one project and finishing and understanding that ask. Whereas at Curology, I was given multiple projects and I was working with multiple people, multiple teams, and there wasn't really a set asked, because I was being asked things several times in different months and working with different people. So I think understanding and maneuvering your strategy on how you would succeed in that, and making sure that you're doing the due diligence to achieve that goal. I think another priority for me is being able to build real connections with the people that I'm working with, and making sure that I'm not only talking to them about my role and their role and picking their brains, but also building and setting up that relationship where it's beyond just, you know, we work together. It's like, I actually like this person. And I think that's more important, because networking, I feel as if can become a numbers game, where you're just like clicking the LinkedIn and just, you know, trying to add as many people as possible. But then it's weird, because if you do in the future want to receive something or have an ask, it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't spoken to this person in like 5 years. Like, this is going to be really weird. Whereas if you actually knew that person personally, it wouldn't be weird at all. So I'd say to prioritize building relationships with people, like actually liking these people and, you know, keeping in contact even beyond your internship. And another thing I'd say is to prioritize building these connections with your fellow interns. And I feel like everybody's always so wrapped up in their projects and networking with people above them, they forget to network with people around them. And I think it's important to make sure that you're building up that friendship, building up that, you know, that unity, because you guys are all in this together. And that's not like a High School Musical pun, but like, you know, we're all in this together, and, you know, like working in a team and helping each other with each other's resources moves things along so much more. AWS was so daunting for me. I was the first time I was going to a tech company. I was working with incredibly smart people, and I really am so grateful for the interns that I met along that way, because we were able to cry together and work on projects together and eat lunch together and share memories together. And then these same people, they go on to do different things with their life, whether or not they stay at that company. And now you have an even wider network than if you were just to try to get in contact with like the VP of the company. So I'd say to prioritize having fun at your internship, not aside from just getting the work done.
Love it, love it. You've got the song stuck in my head now, but we'll pop over to Amy.
I feel really bad because Christelle was just like, okay, prioritize having fun. And then I'm like, wait, that's definitely not what I was gonna say. For me, I think it was prioritizing what high standards look like. I'm really a very, very different answer from the previous. But for me, I worked with a lot of startup culture, nonprofits. And for me, I wanted to know what does, a successful company measure in terms of success, and what does high standards for them look like? And I wanted to, how can I take that bar of achievement and apply it to my projects? And so it was not easy hitting that bar. I think with companies that are larger, have like a science down when it comes to their projects and their deliverables. It really is about matching that style and then just knowing how to apply it to your own project. So for me, it was really understanding Amazon culture, Amazon standards, how people write, how people talk, how people express themselves. And so I think that was a priority for me. And honestly, just like I was talking to my manager recently about this, but getting that science down has also helped me in, all my other careers, whether it be like my academic career, my other internships, the current clubs that I run at, knowing how companies grow from nothing to Fortune 500, and what kind of standard and what kind of procedures they've put together is really imperative for when you want to start your own entrepreneurship, when you want to start your own companies. Learning what successful leadership looks like, what good leadership looks like, what are good standardized procedures, and like getting that science down, I think is so important for just like your own personal growth. And so that was a priority for me. And then I had fun too.
Love it, love it. So just going to a couple audience questions now. Have some really, really good ones, but there was one that stood out to me just throughout looking at everything, and it was really about understanding how to record different accomplishments in terms of quantifying results. And so I think that this was a couple of things that you guys mentioned a bit earlier, but we'd love to just hear everyone's thoughts on that.
I can start. So I think when I was first working through my resume, I didn't know how to quantify my experiences. I know everyone says, oh, put as many numbers as you can. I was like, I don't have numbers. I made social media graphics. Like, how do I measure that? And I think when it comes to quantifying your achievements, you have probably achieved more than you initially expected. So let's say if you're not in a data science role, so like me, I'm in marketing, and a lot of it is like, did people resonate with the colors that I like? Very hard to quantify, but that's something that you can. So when I think about in preparation for possible return offers or just quantifying results, I think about what my specific responsibility helped achieve an overall goal for the organization. So for example, on my current internship, I'm a media buyer. I do a very small part, which is basically just optimizing a very specific ad group and a very specific campaign for one account. But that specification has helped, other teams be able to, let's say, like, for example, I implemented one strategy. Other teams realize, oh, I can implement that strategy too. And then that spiral effect overall leads to an overall success for an account and for a company. So I think when it comes to accomplishment and quantifying your results, if you cannot like immediately think of numbers that specifically say 50% growth, $1,000 in revenue, think about how your specific responsibility spiraled into a bigger effect, and then talk about how your roles really contributed to an overall success for an organization as a whole. That would definitely help me a lot when I was, trying to quantify and like write down on my resumes, because I know it gets a little bit difficult, especially when you're in like a creative role like I am.
Love it, love it. Any other comments from the rest?
I'd just like to add on, just say, whenever you work on a project, right, if you finish an internship, it is 3 months long, you might not remember everything at the end of it. So as you're doing, whatever you're doing, your task and stuff, actually start writing it down, right? Keep a note of it on the side, like a mental note or an actual note. That way you know what exactly you're working on. It may not be easy for you to come up with quantifiable numbers, but then when you look at it and you say like, oh, okay, I did X amount of things, that X amount of things is your quantifiable number, right? Because you do it over a long period of time, you do it over and over again, most likely, or like for the same project. So those are quantifiable metrics that you can kind of, it'll just help you better write your resume or all your experiences, or even for that possible return offer.
Love it, love it.
Yeah.
There was one more question that I just wanted to go ahead and get to before we hop back into all of you. It was really about, I think that this one's more targeted to Christelle and Amy, but it's about Amazon and how to actually secure a full-time role after. So just advice for someone going into Amazon for the summer, what types of things should they continue to do?
I think when I first came in, I didn't realize how much they lived, breathed, and eat leadership principles. So like literally people were like, in the spirit of learning and be curious. I'm like, y'all actually repeat this? I know, Christelle, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So looking at the principal value, the leadership principles, and really committing that to just everything you do. Like be curious, be right a lot. That one was always a little bit weird for me. But try to emulate the leadership principles and just kind of apply that into whatever your project is. So with Amazon, there's a very structured project, I think for the most part. They'll tell you, here is your ask. And for the entire summer, your goal is to finish that ask. And at the end of it, provide an end-to-end deliverable for it. So as you're making clear what that deliverable is, not only should you meet and exceed it, but also apply the leadership principles in there. So be curious, do research, ask good questions. I'm trying to think what the other ones are. Grow, probably something like that. Yeah. So know what your deliverable is, but apply the leadership principles to it as well.
Yeah, I think Amy did an amazing job with that response. I just want to add that within your project at AWS or Amazon or whatever umbrella that you're working under, you want to make sure that you are plugging in the leadership principles, like Amy said, in almost everything you do. So, and like Amy said, there will be times when your manager will be like, how can you plug in bias for action into this? Or, you know, have you been learning and being curious? Like, this is legit, like a serious thing. At Amazon, when I first came in, I thought that was just like core values they just plaqued on the wall. But this is just something that they literally live and breathe by. And the key to success is in that leadership principles. So if you're keeping in mind how you can emulate those leadership principles in every interaction, in every project that you work in, even if you're doing side projects, that'll set you up for the ultimate success, because at the end of your internship, you'll be evaluated based on how well you emulated those those leadership principles. So I'd say that if you're interested in being an Amazonian, make sure that you're studying what those leadership principles are and how you can really bring that out of yourself in the most organic and natural way.
Christelle, did you have a favorite leadership principle?
I think my favorite one is learn and be curious.
Me too. Learn and be curious.
I actually want to take a different spin on this question just for Ishan and Mina. Was there anything at your company that was either identical to that or something that was similar, just so the audience has the opportunity to understand what that might look like from other companies?
Yeah, I could go first. I don't think there was that much emphasis on the values or principles as Amazon does, but definitely, like, I think in recruiting, metrics are really important. Like how many people I'm sourcing, how many candidates go into first rounds or get offers. So that was something that I tracked, and that goes into the last question where I tracked in a Google Sheets just to see, like, you know, where I sourced them from. Did I use a Boolean search? Did I use LinkedIn, etc.? And also like tracking, like, you know, the status of the candidate. Did they get an offer? And actually, like, when I was quantifying my resume, I was thinking, like, did I make diverse candidate offers as well? So those are some things that are really kept in mind, and what I presented in my internship project at the end of the summer, where we present to our team what we did and what we contributed, and also like what I learned over the summer in terms of sourcing and it was like a nice refresher for the team to learn about that again.
Just to kind of add on to that, similar to me, I think Cisco didn't have like any key phrases, but I think for us, it's just making sure that the quality of your work is something that you feel like is presentable. So even like not just your current manager, but like to your director level or like to upper management, right? Just like for our intern project, that's something that we had to do was present our final project to the CFO management team, right? So I think it's definitely putting in the good amount of quality in your work, and then also going back to a point that Krista actually pointed out earlier, getting to know your interns, because like that can ultimately, you can leverage that as well because you get to know their managers, and so you get to put yourself more out there as well, and then also it just kind of leads to a better like communication efforts as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that question. Really great answers from every single one of the panelists. So now I just want to jump into a couple of specific questions for each of the panelists. So just to start out with Ishan, one question I had for you was going back to pre-internship, why do you think you landed the role? And so this really isn't just, I guess, pertinent to every single position you've had, but specific to Cisco, why do you think you were able to land that?
That's a really good question, and I think that's something that I ask myself a lot too before going into the role. And so what I really look for, because like in my background before Cisco, I worked a lot of service jobs and customer service roles, nothing in tech. And so I really did ask myself, why did I get in? And I think a lot of it did have to do with just like in my previous roles, I did show some leadership capabilities, as well as the stuff that I did like within interacting with the company itself. I had a lot of chances to network with them through like business organizations, to my school and classes, as well as I did a case competition for them. And that got to like, I think that ultimately got to show like my experiences, as well as like my technical side, and the interpersonal side of like networking was also played a factor in itself. So I feel like those two was the perfect combination because they got to see exactly what is my work ethic, how I'm able to interact with people, as well as more of the technical side with the case competition.
Perfect. And just another question to double click on that. I know you mentioned a bit earlier that you did present to the CFO and you did have the opportunity to do that project. And so during that intern project, I guess, can you just elaborate a bit more on how you stayed organized with the project and prepared to then present to the final panel of 5? Because within everything that you're doing, so many different types of things within Cisco, all of the projects, and making sure that you actually stay on the ball with everything. Curious to hear what your organizational strategy was, just to make sure that you weren't falling behind.
Definitely, that's a really good question too. And so like with our intern project, it was something that a lot of companies that are moving into like getting recurring revenue is like working on. So for us, it was a very new topic. So I think the topic itself was something that was tricky because I never really worked on this kind of project with a lot more people. And so for me, organization and for our team mainly, I think it really just looked like first getting down to the basics, right? We were given internship coaches. So they kind of led us throughout the project, kind of ask for feedback and ultimately structure it a little bit better. I think that was a really good point of contact to go to if we had questions, if we had check-ins, or if we wanted to practice our presentation itself, because it was kind of daunting. For myself specifically, I think something I did to be successful was I ended up asking the coaches if I can get like extra practice time with them, just to have some one-on-one time meeting, because that's again asking for help, showing initiative, and also just showing that like you want to do the best you can for the final presentation, because it was pretty nerve-wracking for sure. And then just throughout the process, staying organized, I'll say like start from the basics, right? So if you don't know the concepts, we do the research behind it. Ask to see if you can, put topic specialists within your company itself to kind of just get a better background in doing the research behind it. And don't neglect your project. So if you're given like a project for your team and an intern project, make sure you're working on both and not just like leveraging one on the other, because they both have certain due dates, but they're both equally important to kind of show you you can manage multiple projects and stuff.
Love it. Makes a lot of sense. And for anyone still using Google Docs, just want to say Notion.so is free. So that is my organizational tool. Would love to just have more people use Notion. But Amy, I want to pop it over to you now, just because I thought your experience specifically with Auto Vitals was actually really interesting. Had the opportunity to just take a look at a couple of things you did there. And so I think a lot of people, when they get into an internship, they like have some sort of imposter syndrome. But can you just elaborate on what the importance of taking initiative is within specific roles? So we've talked a lot about it today, but we'd just love to hear more about your take on taking initiative specifically.
Yeah, definitely. So I think let me think. Should I talk to the imposter syndrome first, or just like what it means to take initiative part first?
what it means to take initiative, and then we can go back to imposter syndrome.
Okay, sounds good. I think when it comes to taking initiative, it's okay to admit I don't really know what's happening here. And like I think that's the first step to being like, okay, now I can take initiative. So I guess that kind of taps into the imposter syndrome. So number one, just jotting down what are the questions I have or what do I 100% not get. Making clear exactly what you don't know. And then if you can start drawing a graph for, okay, here are the facts that I need to get. Here are the resources that I need to find. How do I get those? Let's do some research for there. So I think when it comes to initiative taking, at least oftentimes, at least in my previous internships, I definitely felt like kind of an imposter syndrome. So what I needed to do was stay in my own zone. I don't want to go out too much because when I go out too much, people realize, oh my gosh, she doesn't know anything. And so that was kind of how I entered my first internship, very like, let's stick to what I know in case people realize that I was an imposter this whole time. And then I think as I started going into more internships and as people started hiring more interns, all of us shared the same sentiment. But then we quickly realized that when they didn't hire us because we knew everything, they hired us because we had this initiative to grow. And they saw something with us that showed us that, we're very quickly teachable. So I think when it comes to internships, really recognizing that your job there is to be quickly adaptable and teachable. And the only way to gain that insight and knowledge is to take initiative. So whatever you don't know, go out and seek for it. If you have something that you heard about, but you don't really know about it, ask your manager for specific help. So I think when it comes to just initiative taking, it's recognizing that your job here is to learn. So just go out there and ask questions and just find projects that you can hop into. I can just give a quick example. So at my internship for Amazon, I'm marketing and communications background. So that means, I'm good at writing, I'm good at communicating with people, but I don't understand numbers at all. I'm really bad at personal finances and just budgeting for bigger companies as well as data analysis. But something I really wanted to learn was SQL. So I took a class on it, got a little bit of a gist of it, and I talked to my manager, hey, I know that Amazon does SQL. Can I somehow get involved in this project? Not gonna lie, I kind of sucked in the beginning. It took me a day to figure out this easiest query ever, and that is okay because your job isn't to know everything. Your job is to help show the manager that you're here to learn and that you're quickly coachable and adaptable. So if you find something that you think is mildly interesting, go ask about it, even if you don't know it, because it is okay to not know it, I think.
Love it, love it. Immerse in the entire mindset of not knowing and just be curious. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I have from you during this entire chat. I actually wanted to just go ahead and just with my follow-up question, like your experience as an intern at several different companies is extremely unique, but I think Auto Vital is like one example where like you actually had the opportunity to generate a lot of results. I think it was actually at Pace Avenue specifically, not at Auto Vitals, but it was like you were generating a huge amount of leads, and all of these experiences, I think, led to a huge maximization of your summer experience. Like for the audience that would love to learn more just about these results, how you actually generated these types of things, what did you do to generate I think it was 1,200 leads that you had during that time?
Yeah, so those are kind of like my internships that led up to my role at Amazon. So when it came to maximizing leads, so I'm in a marketing role specifically. And so when you're doing marketing for startups, it's really like there's no data that tells you what works and what doesn't. So it's your goal to just try everything. And whichever one you find, like go through, just focus on that route and see if it works. So a lot of it was trial and error. So for example, at Pace Avenue, I was a sales and marketing role. And so my goal was basically just to generate the most amount of leads that were coming into Pace Avenue. And so for me, it was really it was a smaller company. So for me, it was really understanding what people wanted, which our company didn't have the answers for, and figuring out how to sell it in a way that was, speaking to those audiences. So understanding, your audience, but maybe on like a human level. So actually getting to communicate with them, testing in different things, testing different advertisements, how you reach out to them. You might lose money in some areas, you might gain in other areas. But I think when it comes to, early stage startups, especially in marketing, and I'm sure this is with other roles as well, trial and error is a huge part. I guess it's kind of, I really am saying the same thing, which is curious and stuff, but trial and error, see whatever works and monitor very closely, whatever is working, just keep going down that route until it doesn't work. I think, that was definitely something that was huge for my success.
I love it. I love it. And so we haven't had too many audience questions just within the past couple minutes. So going to go ahead and jump it to Mina. Audience, if you guys do have any more questions just based off of this experience, you guys are really, really just go ahead and ask questions. I know you guys are loving the knowledge bombs, so we'll continue to have the panelists drop them. But yeah, any more questions, go ahead and send them there. One of my questions for you is just really about the entertainment industry as a whole. So it's extremely hard to break into, and I think more importantly, it's harder to make an impression on people. But you recently had the opportunity to do an Instagram takeover, and you're now working on, I think it's a Paramount Plus project. So for people in the audience that really want to know about how to maximize a potential internship in entertainment, what advice would you give them specifically in regard to making an impression and being able to sustain a positive business persona?
Yeah, great question. I personally had a really great experience at my current internship in the entertainment industry. And I took the time during my college career to really explore like what type of company or in terms of size or industry was like for me, like in terms of experience. I think at Viacom CBS, everyone is super open and willing to talk to you. So definitely take advantage of that in terms of networking. Like no one has ever said, no, I'm not going to talk to you. So definitely like reach out to people. And I know that we had a lot of internship events. So if there's a panel event, then definitely reach out to them on LinkedIn or email them afterwards saying, thank you for taking the time to speak on the panel. Like if you want to have a coffee chat with them, say, I would love to pick your brain over XYZ for 30 minutes if you have the time and bandwidth. And that's actually how I made a connection of a former intern that was kind of in my role, and he went into marketing. So definitely like he understood my capacity and what I was working in and was able to give me tips. So definitely that was a huge win. And also what everyone was saying earlier, like I think there's so many opportunities to talk to other interns. I had a class of 60 plus interns. So definitely like network horizontally, and all of the interns that I've met, like either extended their internship twice or are in full-time roles now. So definitely like hearing their experience and what you could do to leverage your internship to be really great is awesome. And that's what I would do, and show your impact, of course, and be proactive. They love like people that are willing to learn and ask questions. Like if there's a process that's like so tedious, or ask why that's happening and what can we do in order to innovate that from your past internship experiences or anything that you could think of. Like you're a valued person as an intern. You're not just like there to do like busy work. So definitely like give your input when possible. And that's how like change is made. So definitely that's what I would say.
Perfect. Thank you, Mina. Christelle, I'm going to pop to you for one more question before we head into audience questions and then wrap it up. Just want to go back to last summer and talk a bit more about your time at Amazon. I know that's been the entire theme, but you built and you deployed a hackathon. So can you just talk a little bit about how that process sparked and what the execution was like throughout that as well?
Yeah, so my time at AWS, we were tasked as interns to build an Alexa skill to make the intern process a lot easier for the next intern class that would come in the following summer internship. And so I was able to work on this project with the friends that I connected with throughout my internship. And I was not at all the tech person go-to at all on this project. So it was good that we had a level head of some business people to kind of make sure things were organized and we were hitting the deadlines when necessary. And then we were also aligned with the engineers of the team. So it was really cool to see how we both had skills that could come together to make sure that this project was deployed. And the people that I worked with on the engineering team were incredibly smart to even make this possible. I know that we utilized Java and we utilized another program language that I'm not really remembering right now, but we were able to also use the business skills of like creating pivot tables with Excel to draw out all of the intern names that we were collecting for this project. So it was really cool to see how we were able to kind of combine our skills together to solve one problem. And the problem that we solved was that we were going to create an Alexa skill that would provide intern buddies. So you would be able to be like, hey, Alexa, can you find me somebody on the finance team at AWS? And Alexa would be able to pull through the data anybody that's on the finance team, and then they would give you their email, their Amazon alias, so you would be able to communicate, network, and build that relationship. Unfortunately, we did not win that Alexa Skill Hackathon, but it was an amazing experience. And I definitely think that it grew our relationship even stronger as interns.
Perfect. Love it. Last question for the group coming in from Jung-Hoo Kim. Really good question about what it's like to actually manage your time within the internship. And so I want to just discuss that one really quickly. His question is, how would you allocate time for networking versus time on your work? And then did you guys network outside of your hours as well? So why don't we go ahead and just start out with Mina, then we'll go to Christelle and then Amy.
Yeah, I saw someone else's Carrie Ann's question about managing your time. So definitely what I did was knowing what I had to do on my to-do list, which is what I established with my manager on the agenda on my one-on-one meetings with her. And then I would break down my calendar. So actually like making calendar blocks into what task I was working on, what type of role I was working on, project, etc. So I could focus it one at a time. And then in terms of networking, I really just adhere to the person's schedule because I know that they're busier than I am usually. So definitely I took more time into adhering to their schedule and then my work around that. But that's like totally up to you. But yeah, that's what I did. Thank you.
Christelle, do you want to go next?
Yeah, Christelle.
So I'd have a similar response to Mina. I think that it's definitely important to prioritize what your main task is at your job, whether or not you're breaking your bigger project into smaller projects, making sure that you're hitting those milestones to make sure that you're on track to succeeding and making sure you're accomplishing that project within the time that was scheduled. And also, like Mina said, you are working on the person that you're interested in speaking to's time. So in that sense, it is important for you to be as flexible as possible because sometimes the reality is that these people are completely booked. And you'll end up having to wait maybe a week or two to actually get some time on their calendar, but making sure that you're very intentional about your networking and what your needs are and being clear on what your ask is and what the purpose of the meeting is especially important. And I'd also recommend going to networking events. I know AWS had a lot, Curology has a lot, and I feel like those networking opportunities provides you the ability to kind of step outside that work hat and actually get to know the people as people, which is really important. So if you ever see that there is a coffee chat available or they're having a Friday night happy hour, if you have at least 10-15 minutes to just hop on and say hi, I would definitely recommend that because that will allow you to show face and get to know people, especially outside your team.
Yeah, just picking back off of that, I think when I first started networking, I approached it as a very like interview professional way, but networking really is just making friends and it just so happens that you guys have a career connection. So when I started seeing it that way, networking became much more just about making friends rather than, you know, like a I give you, you give me kind of situation. So for me, I always knew like my top priority was to get my deliverable done and to get my project done. On the side, I also knew that there were people that could probably mentor me, give advice, help support my project. So those are the people that I also network with. So really just getting to know them on a personal basis outside of work. And then also like you can integrate like the networking part while you do your project. And then outside of that, I also knew, okay, I really wanted to go into product marketing. Who are some people I can talk to at whatever company I'm at that can maybe give me advice? And I just set up some coffee chat time with them. And that was kind of like the third tier of when I came to networking. As students and as people just entering internships, like you're very busy and there is very little time. So like it is very make it very clear what your number like 1, 2, and 3 priorities are. But then also just I think networking became such a easier and less like time consuming and exhausting experience when I started just seeing it as like, oh, I'm just getting to know someone and I just want to tell someone, hey, this is me. Here are my struggles. Here's what I'm looking for. How is your day? And then networking just became so much more fun. And it was really just like, you know, it felt more like a coffee chat than like a sit there and be like, I need something from you and I'm going to try to sound as cool as possible. So yeah, that was kind of my experience.
Love it. Love it. So many great points, everyone on TechPod. Just a couple of my biggest takeaways. Number one is be really, really authentic at all times. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I picked up is just continuing to stay authentic with the hiring managers, with your other interns, because that's how you begin to build real connection. Second thing I took away was just be a curious George. Always ask questions, always continue to understand the why behind different things, and never be afraid to continue to ask those questions. And then number three was have a lot of deliberacy and purpose, just an overall intention behind everything you're doing. So if you don't understand the why, then what's the point in doing it? So really make sure that you understand your intentions. Those are just my 3 takeaways. Would love for all of you to, but just potentially put your takeaways in the chat, talk about them on LinkedIn, however you want to go ahead and synthesize that information. But Mina, Christelle, and Amy, as well as Ishan, who had to pop off early, thank you guys all so much for everything. The panel discussion was amazing. And for anyone in the audience who wants to get to know about more of these panels, other things that we do here at TechPod, go ahead and check out techpod.substack.com. We have a weekly newsletter filled with so many different types of tips, internships for you guys all. So make sure to check that out and then connect with all of these amazing panelists. And then also check out TechPod Official on LinkedIn. But that's all from me today. Any last words from the panelists?
I don't know. Feel free to connect with me. Happy to chat. Let's do a normal coffee chat. Be yourself.
I just want to say, everyone, congrats on your internship if you're having one this summer, and definitely live to the fullest and have the amazing internship experience that you can have. Have fun, be yourself, and what you could do is just learn what you can. So definitely be inquisitive, be proactive, show that you're willing to learn, and I'm sure you will do great. So yeah, best of luck, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, TechPod audience. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.